Hello everyone, I'm Jingjing Zhang from Kansas State University. Today, I will present the research about a methodology of eye-gazing attention determination for VR training. First, let's look at the motivation behind our research. Facts of autism spectrum disorder. ASD is a spectrum based that occurs in earlier childhood due to neurological disorders, and its symptoms include abnormal social skills, communication skills, interests, and behavior patterns. Currently, there are no effective drugs to treat the disease, but long-term educational intervention can gradually improve children with ASD, which prevents lifelong disability. Virtual reality system for ASD intervention emerging. There are limitations that most VR systems used for the treatment of ASD have adopted implicit user feedback as the main evaluation method, which deficiency adaptability. VR-based systems incorporate implicit clues from sensors fill the gap, such as eye tracking embedded HMD. However, little is known regarding the correctly identifying eye gaze pattern. First, when people look at different objects, their eyes will stay on some object for a long time. On the contrary, people's eye may perform saccade tasks. Second, for ASD with impaired communication, eye tracking software is especially important for understanding how they focus on the world around them. Facts of Applied Behavior Analysis (ABA) is a method of therapy used to improve or change specific behaviors. In short, ABA changes the environment in order to change the behavior. ABA has been applied to help autism rehabilitation training by VR. Contribution. To our best knowledge, no algorithm has been proposed to detect eye-gazing pattern of ASD in virtual reality scenarios in combination with ABA. We describe a methodology of eye-gazing attention determination and a virtual object hierarchy that will help to manipulate virtual objects for the VR attention training therapy. Moving to the system design. First, let's look at the virtual environment. The system consists of 3 sections. In each section, the user is tasked with paying attention to our virtual teacher as she gives a lecture. Specifically, in the first session, the user is exposed to a virtual classroom to pay attention to a virtual teacher as she gives a lecture. While the user is listening, the system tracks their gaze to compile a list of potential distractions in the VE. For the second session, the system removes all the objects that were flagged as distraction during the first session. These distractions are gradually added back into the scene one by one. During the second session, the system applied one of the 4 training strategies using ABA, that is positive and negative reinforcements and punishments to direct the user's attention back to the virtual teacher when the system detects that they are distracted. For the third session, again, the system gathers the user eye gaze data. Moving to gaze determination methodology, the system tracks 3 timer values for each object. The total gaze time, TGT, means the total amount of the time the user has focused on that object during the current session. The continuous gaze time, CGT, means the amount of time the user has spent looking at the object without glancing away. The cooldown time, CDT, means how much time has passed since the user last looked at the object. As we can see from the system figure, when the system detects that the user is focusing on a virtual object that has not been marked as distracting, the object TGT and CGT are increased. When the object CGT reaches the CGT threshold, the system marks that the object as a distracting object and adds it to the list of distractions. On the other hand, when the system perceives that the user is no longer looking at an object, the object CGT raises. When the CGT hits the CGT threshold, the object CGT is reset to 0. The current system CDT threshold value is 1 second. When an object has been marked as a distraction, it no longer tracks its CGT. However, when the system identifies that the user is focusing on a distraction, that object's TGT keeps going up. Finally, the TGT for each object is tracked throughout the entire session. And is recorded alongside the user's gaze origin, gaze direction, pupil diameter, pupil position, and eye openness. We also design a hierarchy that is used to determine the order in which objects reappear in the scene during the training session to ensure that no object returns before the object underneath it. We can use this link to see the demo we have. We have different sets of virtual classroom and teacher. In this demo, we can see for the first session, the user is exposed to a virtual classroom to pay attention to a virtual teacher as she gives a lecture. While the user is listening the lecture, the system tracks the user's gazing to compile a list of potential distractions in the virtual environment. Once we move to the second session, we can see the system remove all the objects that were flagged as distractions during the first session. Then these distractions are gradually added back one by one. In the demo, we use red vignette that is a negative reinforcement strategy to direct the user's attention back to the virtual teacher. If the user don't look at the teacher, their vision will be covered by a red vignette. Conversely, if the user focuses on the teacher, the red vignette will disappear, which means taking away bad things. For the third session, the system gathers the user's eye gaze data again. When I click the Save Data, the system will output the total gaze time of each object in the first session and the third session. By comparing the total gaze time of the first session and the third session, we can verify whether our system is effective. Finally, let's look at the conclusion and future work. Conclusion: we developed a methodology of eye-gazing attention determination and a virtual object hierarchy to be applied in the VR attention training therapy. In the future, we will conduct user study with the hypothesis that the eye-gazing attention determination methodology can effectively detect user eye-gazing attention. We will also set up different thresholds to optimal training consequence. Okay, that's all for our research. Thanks for your time and listening. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me.